how do you even
I
begin?
guess
That's where I just,
who knows, maybe in the Bahamas, I'm thinking maybe they would burn some of it. I'm sure they don't have the regulations that we have here, but I would assume they would put it on a barge and or chip it up maybe there and recycle it, use it somehow. I don't know.
mhm. I
That's
guess road base.
it's
They could
so
use it for a little bit of road
yeah,
base. I
maybe.
don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But anyway, I tried to get an interview. Maybe at some point we will. But, one of the folks I had reached out to that I've called online a couple times but not been able to get scheduled is I want to play a clip of him, and he talks about the distribution system.
I lost my home, but came out with only the clothes on my back, as many Abaconians have. And the truth of the matter is that there is no gas stations in Marsh Harbor. There is no port. There is no power. And the power grid, and I've worked to BPL for over 25 years. The power grid and the distribution system in Marsh Harbor has totally been destroyed. And so the hopes of restoring power anytime soon there is impossible.
And looking at all the devastation there in the Abacos, in and around Marsh Harbor, there's no, where do they get the poles? Where do they get their conductor? How do they get the poles to the island? How do they get the poles in the ground? You may say, well, they could just hand dig, but, a lot of these islands, I know in South Florida, they have a lot of coral. I'm not really sure about the islands, how bad it is, but some of that stuff you can't hand dig. Some of the places you actually have to have a pressure digger to get a pole down. A lot of questions. Nothing can be done without electricity there. I'm sure that's the primary focus. Next week, got a phone call scheduled with a line technician there that I mentioned earlier. We're hoping to get some of these answers.
It was quite just sad. It just made my heart hurt for him, honestly.
Yeah, you can just hear the fear in his voice and the frustration. So I played just a little bit of the clip, and he talked about the government a little bit there in the Bahamas, and we've all heard about that. But, it's very sad. I don't know that any country could be prepared. I know during Katrina, we heard the same things from Louisiana, and if you ever go to New Orleans, you'll see that the state there and the city there is still in disarray from Katrina back in 2005, I think it was. I didn't play any of his beef with the government, but I just wanted to play that little clip about the distribution system and the lack thereof there on the island.
Well, and he was also touching on the part where they were charging the people to get on the airplane to leave the island. And I don't know how true that is, but I just was just aghast that who would do that in the first place? And it's not just adults. I'm thinking about all the kids, all the children that are just, their worlds are totally blown away, and adults have the mind capacity to somehow process that, but kids don't. And I just was blown away by that. Couldn't believe it.
We were talking, one of my dreams has always been to retire and move to the islands, move to the Caribbean. I can't do, as I mentioned in the first episode, I'll probably mention it every single episode, I just can't do cold weather anymore. I just can't. I dread winter here when it drops down into the 50s. It'll feel good for a day or two, but I want to live somewhere where it's warm all the time.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I'll tell you, after watching this hurricane destroy the Bahamas, I think I'm going to stay on the mainland. I don't think that I could ever afford to move to the islands, but after Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico, Irma destroyed the Caribbean, St. Thomas, St. Croix, and then now this Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas. I just think I'm going to stay. I think I'm going to. Yep.
Not even just the scary part of surviving that, and if you happen to have a house to come back to, seems unlikely, but just the amount of time that it's going to take for them to rebuild and start making money again, as a country. I know in the Bahamas, their biggest income is tourism. And now, think of how long it's going to take to rebuild and for them to actually start having a lucrative business again, just on tourism, not to mention the other few things that they do to sustain themselves. The amount of time is going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, if you think about, what do people do for a living? What do they do? If you worked at a grocery store or a hardware store or even where do you go? What do you do? What do you do for money? What are you going to buy?
There's nothing.
Where do the kids go to school? Where do the kids go to school? What do they wear? It's nuts. I remember during Irma here in Orlando, they flew in thousands of people from Puerto Rico, and there were
Hmm.
literally if hundreds, if not over 1,000 children that went to school here in Orlando for, I don't know, almost a year, I think, before they
Hmm.
were able to go back. So it's just, I don't know, it's horrible, but
It
it's just,
is.
I guess it's one of those risks of living in locations like that. You know, we all have places that we live where, I mean, you live in California, you have fires and earthquakes. I live in Florida. I said this earlier. We have hurricanes, we have sinkholes, we have alligators, we have, what else? We have snakes.
Oh
What
no, the
else?
sinkholes scare the crap out of me. That's one of the main reasons why I wouldn't move there.
Not really a lot here around Orlando, but you get over on the coast toward Crystal River, south, and then even around the villages where. Have you ever heard of the villages? Have you ever heard of the villages where?
No, no, but
Okay,
I
so
did look.
all right,
There is a map online that shows you where all the sinkholes are in Florida because I was looking at
yeah.
it.
I'm going to just say this, and I'm going off script a little bit because Kim and I have some notes here, and I told her this is what I want to talk about. And I know we're supposed to be talking about power line stuff, but this is pretty cool. There's a little town, and I say little town. It's about 55, 60 miles northwest of Orlando. It's where, if you're coming down 75 out of Georgia, you go through Gainesville, Ocala, and then the turnpike that comes off 75. As soon as you get off onto the turnpike headed toward Orlando, there's a town, and it's called The Villages. And it's literally like one of the fastest growing communities in the country. I don't know how many tens of thousands of people live there, but they're all retirees. The whole town, the grocery stores, everything, the banks is for retired people. I mean,
That's
literally,
so
I had my staff
cool.
meeting there last week, and I'm like the youngest guy in the building. I mean, but what's funny is nobody drives cars. Everybody drives golf carts.
Oh, yeah, that's
So,
right up my
yeah.
alley. I would totally want to go there.
Yeah, well, you and I'll talk offline about that. Remember, linetalkerspodcast.com, the button at the bottom for leave a message. So if you have any information on the Bahamas or know of anyone that we could talk to in the Bahamas about the infrastructure there, the power company, or any experiences or news that we didn't mention about the Bahamas, please go to the website, click on leave a message, and then that way it'll give us something to keep everybody updated. Anything else on that?
I'm good.
Looks like Umberto is out in the Atlantic. It looks like, I think it's going to pass between, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to pass between Bermuda and the States right now. It looks like that we're all clear from that. And
Thank
then it
goodness.
looks like, and it's that time of year for us. And then right behind that is another one called Jerry. And it looks
Yep.
like, looks like Jerry's going to come up in the Caribbean a little bit and hang a hard right and maybe go get close to Bermuda, maybe somewhere between Bermuda and the mainland again. And then right behind that is another depression. So I don't think it's even been named yet. Probably still a couple weeks out on that one, but I can tell you the Weather Channel here in Florida is on everywhere this time of year because they scare us all to death with their stories.
Yeah, and I watch
But
the Weather Channel all the time too because I'm a weather nerd and I love to watch it. And I always watch during hurricane season because I think about you all out there. But just today they were talking about what's going on in Texas, and I forget what the name is. It Imelda, I think she's coming up through, and they're having like major flooding in southern or southeastern Texas and Louisiana from this thing because it keeps stalling over them. And so, I mean, those poor utility guys are going to have crap that they're going to have to deal with on top of it.
I don't know if I told you this or not, but 2 years ago on my birthday, I was given tickets to go see Coldplay. Floor seats, 2 rows from the stage. She woke me up midnight and said, I got us tickets to go see Coldplay on the floor, and I only had to pay X number of dollars for them. Now, they were going to be in Miami, so we're talking about 3.5 hours from Orlando, which I'm fine with that. We go to Miami all the time. When I said, oh, that's fantastic, and the next morning I realized she bought tickets for us to go to Houston.
Mm.
So, which a little bit farther away than 3.5 hours, but it's fine. The flights are coming in out of Orlando. So I know I've told you this before. Here in Orlando, there's 1 million people visit a week. So there's flights in and out of everywhere across the country, across the world, come in and out of here. So you can get out of here really easy. Sometimes very inexpensive. I got tickets for all 4 of us to go to Houston. The kids are teenagers. I mean, I don't know, call the authorities. We were going to leave them in the hotel room right next door to the stadium where we're going to go to the concert. They don't even know who Coldplay is, of course, because they don't have a
Yeah.
YouTube channel. We're going to go, and it was the night that Hurricane Harvey hit, and
Oh.
we had to cancel. we had to cancel. We canceled our flight. Luckily, we were going to go ahead and go because what's the odds that they were going to cancel the concert? They did. They canceled the concert. That was like their next to the last stop here in the States. The next show was in Miami. We didn't get to go to that one. And then their tour was over. I don't know. Lesson learned. I think they're going to tour again in a couple of years. But yeah, Houston got clobbered by Hurricane Harvey with all the flooding in the area of Texas.
Yeah.
It's so low inland there, in all across the Panhandle of Florida and Alabama and Louisiana and Texas. It's just they get inundated with cold weather in the winter, heat in the summer, hurricanes, floods right there on the coast. They really battle a lot.
Yeah, that's hard.
Hey, so
I know Wait. I want to ask. Hurricane season starts June 1st, but when does it end? What's the official date?
I don't know. Maybe December 1st, I think.
Well, you
November
always say
1st.
like 3 months. It's always like 3 months. So June, July, August.
I don't know.
I mean, that's not right.
No,
it's got to be at the end of October, wouldn't you say? I don't know.
I don't know. I should know that. I looked it up not too long ago, but I don't have any idea when they stop coming because I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's job security
November
for
1st.
you, right?
Okay. Well, they have Google. I'll Google that as soon as we get off here. But so anyway, hey, another thing that's not on the script today, and again, this is not necessarily talking about line stuff, but it's interesting stuff, and line people are interesting people. Did you see the ship that overturned after the hurricane rolled through in Savannah, Georgia? Did you see the big cargo ship that flipped over?
Yes.
Did you see that thing had like 3,000 new vehicles on it?
I didn't know what was on it. I wondered. I hoped it wasn't anything, too precious.
New cars. It was actually new cars.
What kind of cars? Are we talking
I don't know.
Kias or are we talking like Maseratis?
I don't know. I don't know. I need to look and see. So if you are listening and you see a deal on a car here in a year,
I noticed that in the picture that was online of the overturned ship, there was fire coming out of a little square on the bottom of the ship. And I kept thinking, what on earth would that be? But who knows? I didn't even read further to see what it was. Okay. I'm going to post that on our Facebook page, that link, so everybody can watch that. Yeah. So speaking of videos, last weekend, did you see the video where the kid, and I say kid, in Ohio, I think it was, a party goer climbed the pole and got into, I think it was a single phase line and actually touched it. Did you see that? Yeah, my first thought was if you've made it this far in life and you're in college or at a college party, how do you not know to not do that? I mean, come on, where is the kid's brains? So where are the kids' brains that filmed him doing that? Well, yeah, and everybody cheering him on. That was like my jaw dropped. I was like, everybody's cheering him on. What the heck? Did you see the number of people? The number of people that were standing there cheering that guy? It's just wrong. It's wrong. He is so fortunate to be alive. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean no disrespect, but what an idiot. I guess alcohol makes you do crazy things. I don't know, but I hope if everybody who's seen that, who might have thought of doing it, I hope they learn something, and they don't do that, and we don't see more videos like that. I just can't imagine being that guy's parents or his friends, and it's so scary. And, I think part of it now is people with phones make other people do stupid stuff too. I'm glad they didn't have videos like YouTube when I was growing up. I'm glad that none of that existed, honestly. Yep, so, there's no proof. Yeah. So again, if you got any comments about guy climbing the power pole or you have any insight on it, linetalkerspodcast.com, leave us a message and we'll talk about that for sure. Hey, on a serious note, you actually forwarded this article to me, and for all of us in the utility business, we don't really think about this a lot, but all of us, I think everybody in the business, whether it be a utility or a contractor, or no matter what we do, we have interaction with email. With that email, we do get videos and attachments. We get links that we click on a lot of times. Kim, you want to talk a little bit about the cybersecurity article that you sent me?
It was very interesting.
Well, I'll just kind of reiterate what you were talking about because with me and my social media presence, I notice when someone likes my page or starts following me, I can see their name and where they're from usually.